All right, morning show with Anthony here on 92.9 and 96.9 EHM. Really excited for our next guest. We're presenting a show with him tomorrow night at the West Hampton Beach Performing Arts Center. Tickets are on sale at whbpac.org. We welcome onto the program Anderson East. Anderson, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing good. I was just joking with you off the air, just making sure you're ready to go with an interviewer who's a real fan. It's a different type of interview. I don't know if you've had much. I mean, I know you have fans out there, but I am like, I'm going to get super nerdy on you. I hope you're ready for it.
All right, man. I think fingers crossed.
All right. Let's start with the beginning for you. I read in a previous interview that Ben Folds was one of your, somebody that you really looked up to in the beginning, and that's what got you started on piano. Is that true?
Yeah, man. I was and still am a big Ben Folds fan. I would try to kind of plink out, learning some of his tunes, and that definitely got me going.
What was it? What was the album? Whatever and Ever, Amen. Was that one of the records for you early on?
Yeah, that one. And then Rockin' the Suburbs was real big for me too.
Yeah, it's one of the best. I love him so much. I'll tell you what though, like I don't, it's funny. I don't hear, like, I always feel like he has this like quirky sense of humor in all his music, but that didn't stick with you. So it was just like, I don't know, what was it that kind of jumped out at you?
Man, I think, his songwriting is great. I don't know if, I don't really know if anything really like has, kind of penetrated into, the way that I write. But I think it just made me excited to want to kind of explore and learn something new. And I think that's mainly what I got out of his records.
One of the things that I love so much about your music is the sound itself, and I feel like, prior to talking to you, like I romanticize it in my head that there are hours that have gone into developing this style of yours, specifically your vocals on the recordings. Like you have this great ability to sort of like, I don't know, distort or blow out a microphone, but it sounds so wonderful. Sort of like the day, hearkening back to the days of recording in the 50s and the 60s, I want to ask you about that. How much time did you spend worrying about vocals in the recording studio? What mic? What process are you using? Take me through, sort of that sort of end of your music.
Man, that's an interesting question. I do blow through microphones quite a bit, actually. Live, I've just kind of use like just a 58, and I think I've gone through like 6, in this past tour, through the span of about a year. But on the records, I think we mainly used an RCA 77, and then I recorded a lot of the vocals in a cabin in East Tennessee, just using a SM7 and an old API preamp, and one that you could, kind of gain up a little bit and get that a little more blown out sound that, clipping the preamp kind of thing. But as far as like singing goes, it's just I've been trying my best to, make it sound impactful and have weight and emotion behind it. So I guess that just so happens to be what comes out.
So it was a little like unintentional, because I feel like, Delilah, like I hear it on Delilah, I hear it on Encore. Like I would imagine there's some like, angry old engineer in the studio that's like, don't do it that way, kid. You're blowing everything out. But yet it's like the style and it works, Yeah,
I was, super attracted to like Wilson Pickett records and Van Morrison like sounding records and stuff like that. And so yeah, like I think it's always been a goal of mine or something to strive for, is that that Wilson Pickett, sonics in a vocal, I think is just crushing.
Yeah. Yeah, because it enhances the message of the lyrics, depending on how you deliver it. And, to me, when I listen to your stuff, like it's that exclamation point on whatever it is that you're singing about,
Well, man, I greatly appreciate that. Thanks.
I told you we're gonna get nerdy. We're gonna get nerdy. We're gonna edge on creepy, Anderson, because that's how
I like it, man. I like it.
You're from Alabama, obviously Muscle Shoals FAME Studios. I know you had the live record. Tell me about your experience. Give me a little insight in that area. I'm a New York kid. I've never been down to Alabama, but I've seen the documentaries on the recording studios. You've obviously been there. What is it about that little area, your home state? Like, how did it all come to fruition, and how do you feel about it now? These two recording studios that really define like a whole entire generation of music.
Man, like growing up, I wasn't all that aware of it. And by that, I wasn't aware of it at all until, I was probably like 16 or 17. And even then I still didn't, recognize the weight that it had. But it was, a good friend of mine. His dad was Little Richard's guitar player, and him and his wife ended up buying the kind of second version of Muscle Shoals sound, and it's now called Cypress Moon Studios, I believe. So we'd go to like Christmas parties and stuff like that. We had our like terrible little high school band, and everybody there was like, the Swampers or, like all these like, heavy cats that, as a 16-year-old kid, you're like, who the hell are these guys? And I look back on it now, I was like, oh my God, did we play Sweet Home Alabama or something awful? Like, what happened? What did I do? And, but yeah, man, and everybody over at FAME, the Hall family's been just, super kind to us, and they let us dig through their archives of, unreleased stuff whenever we were making Delilah. Just, I was like, man, I wonder if I can find like an old Jimmy Hughes tune that didn't come out or something like that. And so that's where we ended up finding Find 'Em, Fool 'Em, and Forget 'Em, which was George Jackson and a Rick Hall tune. So yeah, but that whole scene has been really, really, really good and really inspirational. And it's a great community, I guess, to have some kind of affiliation or belong to.
Yeah, yeah, that's wow. So they let you roam around the archives and everything. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, man, it was nuts, man. Like, so like all the players used to be like on salary, so even if they didn't have an artist in there to cut or anything, like they still had to show up for work. So there's like all these recordings of these guys like playing like top 40 tunes of whatever it was in the day, like like soul versions of Neil Diamond songs, just instrumental, that are just sitting there that are mind blowing.
Wow.
So yeah, it was cool getting to hear that.
That's unbelievable. Now, was that sort of your foray into the business? Because I would imagine that, in 2013, 2014, it's kind of hard for you to step into any sort of record company and be like, yeah, I like to make music of integrity that's not bubblegum pop. Like how do you wind up getting a record deal? Is that your way in, sort of having that relationship with the studios?
Man, not really. It was a really interesting thing because I've been working with Dave Cobb, as engineering for him, and then we'd also started to make this record, and which was Delilah, was the start of Delilah, And this is kind of before, this is right around when Jason Isbell's Southeastern came out, and I think Sturgill's first record came out. And so Dave was just starting to get some heat going on. And then he got approached by Atlantic Records to, I don't really know how it all kind of came to be, but long story short, they were going to end up giving him his own kind of imprint through Atlantic. And just so happens we're making this record, so Dave thought it would be a good idea and for Delilah to be the first thing that came out on this kind of venture. And then from there, you'd be surprised the kind of trouble you can get into when you have, somebody from a major label, call up some place and, be like, hey, I got this kid that wants to come dig through some stuff. They're like, send him on down.
We're talking about Dave Cobb, right? That's who you're talking about? Yeah. Dave Cobb, who's gone on to produce you, Sturgill, like you said, Chris Stapleton, Shooter Jennings, Zach Brown. I mean, he's done a lot of work. All right, so that's cool. So I didn't know that. So that's like a good that's a good protected way to get in, because I guess the least time you have to spend in a record executive's office, the better.
Well, it was really strange how it all kind of came to be, because this A&R guy came to the studio I was working at one day, and it's like, man, you mind just playing a song or two, or just sitting in the room with acoustic guitar? And he was like, cool, man. What are you doing day after tomorrow? I was like, I don't really know. He's like, all right, well, we'll see you in New York. And yeah, 2 days later, I'm sitting in in all the offices playing for everybody, and everybody's like, yeah, sounds good, let's do it. And that was kind of the whole process.
Wow.
It was very quick.
Wow, that is cool. Yeah. It's funny. I just had the guys on from Collective Soul, and they were telling me that their first airplane ride was to New York to sign a record deal. And I thought that was an interesting story, but yours is equally as quick. So some guy just came to see you, and next day you were in the office. What is that like? Because a lot of people don't know this, and I've been to record labels for shows during festivals and things. Artists do shows at record label offices in the weirdest, like, sometimes it's in the conference room, sometimes it's in the lobby. Was that what it was like when you were doing your thing? Were you in a conference room somewhere?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, it was kind of, it wasn't like typical boardroom style. It had a little more class. But yeah, it was that. And then, I went over to Craig Cowman, the head of Atlantic's house, and played for him. And I guess we got the go ahead. So it was terrifying.
So are you so now how far into Delilah, do you have a couple of tracks for Delilah already done at this point, or?
I believe we had the whole record done.
Wow. And
they just were like, cool, we'll put it out. And they did. They I went to school for audio engineering, and the whole time they're just like, record labels are the devil, and they'll just chew you up and spit you out and just change you into whatever they want you to be. But yeah, everybody over there has been exactly the opposite. It's like, we're here for you to do whatever you see fit, and we're just going to give you the tools and the resources and the support to do it. And I've just hit the jackpot. This is incredible. Somebody's been lying to me this whole time.
I know, and especially coming from the environment you're coming from, somebody in the business too. Like, I'm sure the horror stories were rolling around, and being in school, like you said, yeah, I'm sure you heard all the worst stories. That's so funny. That is so funny. Anderson East is with us here. Encore is his latest record, which is out now. Delilah was one of my top albums of 2015. I want to ask you about The Devil in Me specifically, because not only do I feel like that's the best song on that album, but that may be one of the best songs ever written. So let me just creep you out and say, that's my favorite tune ever. Tell me about that song and how it came about and how you got it down on the record.
Man, that one was, I wrote that with, my really good friend, Aaron Ratier, and our buddy, Mark Stephen Jones. And, we'd started it one night, and Aaron and Mark had just been going just wild this the whole night. We kind of had this kind of rough sketch of the tune, and we were just all kind of talking about our our redneck lives, and and sitting out this ranch outside of Nashville, and so we just kind of left it alone, and then woke up the next morning, and about 10 minutes over cooking bacon, we finished that tune. And, it was like one of the hardest songs to write, and also like one of the easiest ones. It was really strange, but I think there was everybody had enough to drink to make it hard. And then once we had our morning eggs, everything was a little more clear.
So booze and bacon makes for a great song.
Yeah, I think that's the way it's going to work.
That is so fun. No, but it's just, it's got such a great vibe. I feel like in all your tunes, and this is another question I have for you, because, sometimes it's like horn section and just driving, like Find 'Em, Fool 'Em, Forget 'Em. And then sometimes it's just like the piano is so up front and everything else is so background. How conscious are you when you're putting the album together of how much of each element of your music you have? Or is it just like write the song, be done with the song, and then whatever you have at the end is what you have?
Yeah, that's mainly it, man. Like the writing process is like you don't care what the end result is. And honestly, I don't even know if it's any good. I have the worst time, judging if a song, like What a Woman Wants to Hear. Like when I wrote that, I thought it was just complete garbage. And then whenever we recorded it, I was like, this is my favorite thing on the record. And so yeah, my measure of worth is pretty terrible. But yeah, I think if anything, like when we're, I just write the song, leave it alone, and then when we're doing the record, we just sit around and try to service the song the best we can whenever that time comes, and it just kind of works out, and we use the tools that we have around us.
Yeah. Does it? Do they trust you to pick the singles then, or are you not qualified for that?
I'm not. I have my favorites, but yeah, I don't. I let other people help me with that one. I've got my opinions, but I don't really try. I know what my guts are actually made of.
Anderson East is with us. I loved. I'm such a huge fan of Brandi Carlile's too, and we were looking forward to the Grammys because 6 noms for her. She bat 500 on the day, and then she had that performance. And I was really excited for her. And then I was on, I don't know, Twitter or Instagram or wherever I was. And I saw you write this whole big congratulations to her. I know you have the Dave Cobb connection, and I know you were on cover stories with her. But I wanted to ask you about your relationship with Brandi and what you felt like. Because for me, I'm a fan of hers for 15, 20 years. So to see her kind of hit that apex moment was awesome for me. And I've never spoken to her. So I wonder how it was for you.
Well, I met Brandi it was before, we were on the road with her right before Delilah came out, and that was first time I met her. But I've been same as you, just a huge fan for ages. And we got off, our relationship got off to a real rocky start. We were just young band with blood in the water, just ready to go. And I think she was, in that position where it was like the biggest tour she'd ever done, and we were just trying to be loud. We just wanted to be a rock and roll band. And she's singing, the I and stuff like that. So, but we eventually just kind of saw eye to eye and became like really good friends. And, she's been a really good person to, call whenever I have like hey, is this thing, should I do this? Or like, just asking like personal advice, because she's, extremely thoughtful and really, really clever with, with her music and with her personality and how she comes across. And, and so now it's been just a lovely relationship. And, I couldn't think of anybody else I'd rather lose a Grammy to than her. So for her, for it to be popping off, as big as it is right now for her, like it just shows you like you just stay true to yourself and, keep plugging forward and do the work and it'll happen.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So, and she's singing the best she's ever sang in her life, in my opinion.
Yeah, right. I mean, the joke is like, you hear the story and you're like, oh my goodness. But now, like all these years later, she's got this new, stuff, and you're like, yeah, it's like a fine wine almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's career defining.
Yeah. Grammy nom for you though. I mean, like, is that gratifying, or do you not really care? Because I always find it funny, people are like, I don't really care, but I care about all that stuff.
Man, it's not what I had in mind. I never expected it to happen. Granted, I didn't expect anything else to ever really happen. But it's not something that I'll like, base my entire self-worth on. But it's incredibly flattering to be recognized for the work that you do. And, I think that's the biggest stage in the world when it comes to music. And so just to be, put in a list of other music, that it's incredibly flattering and really inspiring. And it's gratifying too. Yeah.
Yeah. You're, what are we, like a little over a year or so removed from the release of Encore. How do you I always love asking this question from an artist who has an album out for a while. How do you feel about the songs now as opposed to when you were recording them? Because, putting a year of time in between is a difference, but then also taking the material out and performing it on the road, I'm sure that also changes your feeling towards some of the songs.
Yeah, definitely. They shift and migrate quite a bit from their original status. I think recording a record is always emotionally difficult, just because you're analyzing everything. You're trying to be as loose as possible, but like still overanalyze everything as much as you can. And, you strive for perfection, but you're, a human being. And so it's going to always come out flawed. So, playing these songs live, they end up having their own lifespan, and they change. We change the way that they're played and kind of the arrangements. But then it also, like, lyrically, the sentiment starts to shift and become something else. As well.
Yeah. Do you find that some, like you said before, do you find that after playing them for a while, some songs, like, you can't take them off your set list for the night because they're so good, whereas in the studio maybe you weren't so crazy about them?
There's definitely tunes that have to be on there, just because they're my favorite tunes to play. And I'm, a really selfish person, and I'd like to have fun too while other people are having fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, you have to have a certain amount of love for a song to put it on a record to begin with. But then, I guess the more you play them live, you figure out which ones are your favorite children? And, it's like, oh yeah, I'll put a little bit more time and effort into this one. And, the other one, he can just, drop out of high school or something and go get his GED if he wants to. But I'm going to make sure this little guy goes to college and grows up strong and right. All that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. Anderson East is with us. All right. So a year from Encore, Delilah was 15. Where are you at in the writing and recording process? Do you have some new material down the road, or where are you at? Just playing shows?
We got some more shows to play, that's for sure. I think we got another tour we're about to announce here coming up, and we got some new stuff coming out that we're really excited about. But yeah, mainly just writing a lot right now. That's kind of my main focus right now. It's just, we put both of these records out like really close together, amidst, touring a whole lot. So for this one, I'm going to just have, a little bit longer of a breath, just to, make sure that, what we put out next is exactly what we need to, or exactly what we want to.
All right, well, that's awesome. Well, if you ever need an honest opinion, Anderson, I am always here, although I haven't disliked anything you put out, so maybe I'm not the kind of guy to go to.
Well, if I need it, I will come call, and I appreciate that.
All right, thanks, man. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night right here on Long Island.
Well, same here. Thank you, man.
All right, there he goes, Anderson East, West Hampton Beach Performing Arts Center tomorrow night. Huge fan of his. Really mellow dude. Super good singer-songwriter. If you're, just coming across the morning show with Anthony through the vlog or the podcast, or you're stumbling across us here on the island and you don't know Anderson East, start with Delilah. Came out in 2015. Encore came out last year. It's music of integrity. And I don't like to throw out that I word a lot because it always sounds like snooty and highfalutin, and I really don't care for that whatsoever. But when you listen to this guy's music, you can just see all the, and I know he says it sort of flows easy by accident, and maybe it does. But, I would say the answer to that is it's because he just has this natural talent and ability. Because when you listen to his music, and like I said, the horn section and the piano and the vocals and the thing, like it all comes together so well. And if you love soul music, or like Wilson Pickett, he brought up Van Morrison, you like that Southern sound, the Muscle Shoals thing, like it all weaves its way into his material. And that's why he is always one of my faves.